Hello, folks. Dr. Kevin Polk here. Whoop, a little bit hoarse again. Who knows what I've been into. This video is about discussing gun laws using the ProSocial matrix. Well, I guess it's a video and a webinar. And so I'll be showing you how to go about doing it. Because it can be difficult. I think the most thing that can be difficult about it is your preconceived notions going into a discussion like this. And it can be scary. You think it's going to be lots of conflict and stuff. And it certainly can be. So don't do it that way. Do it this way. And I've done this. So I know that it works, and start with something that looks just like what I have in front of you now. You could have the discussing gun laws, but I just put that up there as a reminder to me what this is about. And I got to get to my, there we go. So I can erase that, get that out of the way, and it would look like this. So you would put a board up in the room before you have your discussion. And I highly recommend that if you're going to have a discussion like this, then this is an organized discussion. I'm not talking you run into somebody on the street and start having a discussion. This is where you're going to have an organized discussion. So you put this up on the board. This is called, this is the ProSocial matrix. Well, actually, no, it's the matrix. But whether you know that or not, just put this on the board and put this question up: who's important to you? And the first thing everybody does is discuss who's important to them in terms of spouse, mom, dad, children, neighbors, co-workers, whoever. have them discuss that first. That's your very first topic of discussion. And just have a good time with that. Literally, no matter, everybody does, no matter who you are in the world, you have people who are important to you, and have that discussion. You then, the direction of the matrix is it goes this way. So the next thing that goes up over here is stuff that can show up and get in the way of moving toward who's important to you, stuff like fear. I usually use the example of you thinking about asking somebody out on a date, so that person would be important to you. But fear shows up because this is the first time you've asked them out, so maybe they'll reject you. And so fear of rejection shows up. And if you go with that fear, these are away moves up here, and you avoided it, you did not ask them out, well, you wouldn't get to ask them out. So fear could show up and get in the way, but other things can show up. In these discussions, obviously anger, and you would talk about how anger can show up and get in the way of moving toward who's important to you. You don't have to belabor that a whole bunch, but get that done. You then talk about what I was just talking about up here, is that, and notice the direction of the matrix is it's gone here and now it's gone up here. We're talking about stuff that you do to move away from fear and anger and other unpleasant feeling emotions. So from fear, you might run away. From anger, you might yell. Might do that for frustration too. Anxiety is a popular one that shows up down here, and you might just avoid. There's a very large category of avoidance stuff. And by the way, everybody does away moves. You must do these, especially if you have a fear, like there's a bus comes in up here through your five senses. Bus is coming at you, I mean. You go, fear shows up and you jump out of the way. That saved your life. So away moves. Another thing, you feel and sense you have a headache, and you take some aspirin or Tylenol or whatever your favorite is, and to get rid of the headache. So these away moves, don't diss on them. We just want to be aware of them. We want to see what they look like. And we talk about that. And then finally we come, this is the arrow of our direction. We're coming over here. We're going to talk about what can we do to move toward who's important to us. And so we can talk to folks, and we can text them in this day and age, and we can go visit people, and stuff like that about moving toward who's important. And so that's just a very, well, you just want to have that discussion first. So it's about you as an individual, who's important to you, what kind of stuff shows up and gets up inside of you and gets in the way of moving toward who's important to you. What kind of stuff do you do to get lessen this stuff? And it may work for the people who are important to you, or it may not, but certainly the function is to lessen this yucky stuff. And finally up here, arrow goes like that. What do you do to move toward who's important to you? And have that discussion first. So there you go. We haven't talked about guns or gun laws or anything yet. We've just talked about you as a human and the people who are together as a human. And that's what you want to do first. If you do that first, you're going to have a whole lot more luck with these discussions. And now I'm not saying the people in the room don't know they're there to talk about gun laws. They do. But you just say, the best way to start is to have this discussion. And we'll map it out like this, and everybody does it, and it's all great. So now I'm going to erase all this stuff, because then you do a second loop around this. And see if I can successfully erase that. So it's start right there. So what's our shared purpose? And so now, the people in the room together, what's our shared purpose here today? Well, somebody might say, well, it's to discuss gun laws. Well, there you go. That is your shared purpose. Now somebody might say, something very provocative, arm everybody or get rid of all guns or whatever, that kind of stuff. Like, the shared purpose has a lot more to do with other people. What are we here to do together? Well, we're here to discuss gun laws for sure. And ultimately to come up with wise decisions that take care of everybody. Really, that's what this whole deal of being a human is that ultimately we make decisions that help take care of everybody. Um, and and everybody's everybody. So that's the kind of thing. So what's our shared purpose? For sure, gun laws, but others is, protect the children. You've heard that a lot lately. I'm speaking to you, this webinar is going on February 26th. Just on February 14th, there was another big school massacre shooting. So protect the children, protect the school children, people might come up with. And I think most people could agree on that. That's a biggie. But protect people in general, Just come up and have a discussion, nice discussion, best you can, about what's our shared purpose. Now, once again, when we get over here, this is the kind of stuff that can show up and get in the way of discussing the shared purpose. And it's the same list for the most part, fear and such. But the other thing that gets in the way, so we have fear, I'll put them in here, fear, anger, anxiety, and such. But there's another thing that shows up over here when you have this discussion, and it's basically the topic of ego. So there is that usual list there, and then we have ego. People protecting their egos. They don't, they feel like they're going to be made fun of, or they're going to lose something. And humans, when interacting with other humans, are very what's known as loss aversive. We all are. We don't want to lose stuff, and we certainly don't want to lose our ego strength. The self-efficacy, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. We don't want to lose that. And so in these discussions, that's what you got a lot going on. And these, in any discussion, whether it's you're talking about a team meeting in a business, or talking about gun control, these ego issues and people doing things to protect their ego. That's the best way to do it. And when you do something to protect your ego, it's basically related to fear there. And it's going to be an away move. It's going to look like that. And that can get you into trouble. And so we want to look at that and talk about that, of how people go about protecting their egos in any situation, even if it's not gun laws. So how do people do it? Well, one of the favorites inside of organizations is they gossip about folks, but they also yell. They try to dominate things, dominate a discussion to protect their ego. All kinds of stuff goes on. So have a discussion about how people go about protecting their ego and stuff. And then finally, what's our shared purpose? So what kind of things could we do to protect the children? What kind of things can we do to have better relationships with each other? Just have an honest discussion. Now, some people will get into all or nothing thinking. Well, it has to be all one way or another way. I alluded to that. It's either take away all the guns or give everybody a gun, that kind of thing. And well, that's really all or none thinking, and all or none thinking is something that actually shows up over here, and I would label it as such. That kind of stuff, that is called all or none thinking. Is just not good problem solving. It's just flat, just not. There's a large literature on problem solving, which is sort of kind of what this is, and that's just not going to work. And I'd be honest with people, that all or none kind of stuff won't work, because what we're looking for is stuff that evolves us, that moves us toward better ways of being. However people talk, things evolve, laws evolve, guns have certainly evolved, medicine has evolved, surgery has evolved. We all have cell phones. You know, we've evolved from no electricity to electricity. Everything evolves. Whether you believe in evolution or what or whatever, you're going to look back over even the last 10 years and see how things have changed and changed over time. And we need to make decisions that fit with those changes over time, whether it be about guns or anything else. We're constantly, as humans, faced with these decisions and trying to make wise decisions that last for the long term. And so all or none thinking and that kind of stuff, that's not going to work. Taking rigid stances with no flexibility whatsoever, whichever side you're on. And that's where you get into the extreme right or extreme left stuff. That stuff doesn't work, not for problem solving and coming up with decent solutions that you can try. And then if they don't work, you can change it and do something else. And of course, that's one of the problems with our system, our bureaucratic system of laws, whether on the state level or the federal level. They set it up more that it was hard to change things rather than easy. And as far as this stuff goes, it may be that it's too hard to change things. We need to make it a little easier. I don't know. I'm not a political scientist, but we definitely need to be in a position where we try something, evaluate it through our five senses, and notice if it's notice if it's working or not through our five senses. And if it's not working, then we need to start looking at this process again. So that's how I'll close. What this is a process. And you start the discussion off by reminding everybody that we're all in the room, we're human. And so if you'll recall that we started with who's important right there. And that's important. Start there, start right there. And then you go here and then up here and then over here. And then when you come back down to this second loop, maybe I'll have an eraser here and make it a little larger. Oh, I can make it even bigger. And switch that back to calligraphy. There we go. And we go to what's our shared purpose. And notice that's two or more people, and then you do it again. If you have your discussions that way, they'll work out a whole lot better. I'm not saying they'll always work out perfectly. However, everybody will start to get the hang of this process. It's a very simple process. It's called, both loops together are called the ProSocial matrix. And I hope you use it and try it out. As long as the video looks good, I'll post this up on YouTube and see if some other people can use it. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching. I'm trying to, there we go. And now we got 3 attendees. Well, thank you so much for attending this. We got Georgia, Jonathan, and that. I'm trying to find my chat. Oh, there we go. And that's how you do it. No, I didn't want to make it any fuss or muss about it. I've done this many, many times. If people know me, I'm Kevin Polk. I created the matrix and the ProSocial matrix, and this stuff really works. Just don't let your head get in the way, or your fears get in the way. I mean, even me, in starting to think, well, I'll put that up this webinar about doing this topic, and boom, fear showed up inside of me, like, oh my God, oh my God. And it's like, no, it's a process, Kevin. It's a process. You're just going to show people a process, and how they can come in and have these conversations. I should say, I said gun control on this one, not gun control. Sorry, that's the wrong words. Gun laws. I stayed away from the other words on purpose. But any difficult conversation, when you use this process and start with who's important to everybody in the room, individually. My wife's important, my kid's important, my dog's. Oh, I forgot to put dogs in. 99% of the time, people put dogs in. So there you go. So that's it. Thank you so much for saying it. I haven't managed to figure out. That's because I really don't have a mouse. So I'm getting my mouse out so I can get over here and click on message and say, whoa, thanks for showing up. There, I typed in, thanks for showing up. If you can see that, you might respond back at me. And if you want to know more about this, you can go to the ACT Matrix Academy. I'll put it in. Well, it's hard to type. And find out about other stuff about the ProSocial Matrix. And somewhere on there, there's, oh yeah, in the upper right, there'll be a contact link. And you can contact me. So other than that, I think I'm done. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now. I'll hang in just for a minute just to see if anybody types in a hello or a question at me. You can certainly ask me a question because I can always edit this out on the end of the video. Oh, buddies. Okay, well, that's it. Bye-bye now.